Welcome to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Good morning, Mateo. How are you?
Fantastic, brother, as usual. What's going on in your world? How are you?
Well,
In the week.
Yeah, it's week 3 at Direct, so exciting things. You just made the big announcement yesterday, so that's love the video.
I come back with my G hat on.
That was pretty hilarious.
No, it was fun, man. Thank you for all your help with that. That was
That was good.
totally pushing me out of my comfort zone, as you know.
Well,
no, it was awesome.
Someone has to.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it.
Season 4, episode 4. Have a great guest. I want to dive right into it because there's a lot to talk about. The one, the only, Dustin Abney, CEO of Portoro. Thanks for joining us, Dustin.
Yeah, guys.
Welcome to
Thanks
the
for
show.
having me. Really excited. Appreciate you guys having me on.
So, and we were talking before the show, we get lots of requests from, different agencies reaching out, sending, we get these emails all the time. You should go ahead and interview so-and-so, or you should have so-and-so on the show. And I'd probably say 4/5 of them, I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's the right fit because we're pretty specific, we're not a tips and tricks podcast. And there's a lot of those, like get rich quick and do all these different things. And, this investor is doing this stuff with Airbnb and, and they're all leading with that. And I'm like, it's not really our vibe. It's not really our thing.
Yeah.
But when yours came through, I was like, oh shit. All right. And I quickly hit reply. I said, schedule it. And I think it aligns timing wise too, because you guys just like within a couple of weeks, you launched your first location. So I'm glad that we were able to coordinate and get you on. There's a lot of really cool things I want to dive into. Tell us about, we always kind of talk about the story of why vacation rentals and why, short-term rentals. You go back to, looking at your experiences in your, you come into the short-term rental space, not too long ago, I guess like 2018, 19?
2018-ish, yeah.
But
before that, personally, which is how a lot of people's story starts,
Well,
Right.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll even go further back. I grew up in a really blue-collar family. My dad's a general contractor. My mom helped run the business. So I've been in and around real estate and swinging a hammer, if you will, since I could walk. So that's been really the foundation for everything. I found myself in a job that I hated in the financial community at Fidelity Investments. And my buddy, Austin, who I grew up with, offered me this role at a startup he called dotloop. And it was like, oh, this is really interesting. I didn't really love finance and all that kind of stuff. So I just took a flyer and, massive pay cut and slept on couches, slept in the office, did the total startup thing and continued to immerse myself in real estate. And that was a SaaS company. It was really awesome experience. I mean, I think the trajectory of my life changed dramatically starting at dotloop, but it just widened my view of real estate and all of the possibilities that real estate as sort of a general industry could give me for whether it was personal or professional. And
hey, real quick, Dustin, what for those that don't know, I know Mateo knows, but what was and what is dotloop?
Yeah. So the easiest way for people to understand dotloop is it's a combination of like a DocuSign, which is online e-signature platform, a storage system like a Dropbox, and a transaction management platform, essentially. And the idea was we're going to combine all those things into one and give real estate agents and brokers and teams a tool so that they could manage the transaction easier.
I've used it multiple times. I'm sure most have used some version of it. There's others that have come out since, but dotloop at that time was pioneered the combination of these different things.
Yeah, it was really the first of its kind. And we always joked back then we launched it at the worst time in like 07, 08 when real estate was crashing. But I think it was also perfect time, right? Is like when people were really far away from real estate and looking ways to optimize. And it was just, really cool product at the time. Went through many changes today, still exists under Zillow Group. I think they've combined a few different brands. But when I was leaving, I think back in 2018, we touched something like 70% of every residential real estate transaction in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of crazy to scale at which it got to. It was really, really cool.
That's insane. 70%. Let's put that that's an insane percentage, but like on, if you remember, if you could put that hat back on, you remember like what is that in a number? Do you have any like what is 70% of like how many real
Um,
estate transactions, like residential real estate
Gosh, I mean, it's millions. It's in the millions range for sure. There's on every single listing, right? There's two sides. There's the buying agent side, the listing agent side, and multiple offers. And this is like we were ramping through after we got through the really terrible times of the crash, right? Then real estate just took off again. So the past decade or so has been crazy.
Right.
And I think we entered and we had, Keller Williams as a client. We had, Sotheby's. We had all these major real estate brands that started to use our platform. And yeah, so it was millions and
Right?
millions of
Insane.
transactions a year, which is insane.
So that, so dotloop, you're with them. Dotloop was acquired by Zillow Group, which you
Yeah.
which you mentioned, and now it's kind of changed, but it's still doing its thing. You exited Zillow Group back in 2019. What was the reason for that, and where did you transition over to?
Yeah, so in my time there in Dotloop and as we were growing, I saw, some of the executives and professionals around me started to invest in second homes and the money that they were making. And my wife and I, we always traveled to this small little lake community called Norris Lake in Tennessee. It's like an hour
Mhm.
outside of Knoxville. And we were renting people's houses on VRBO and it just sort of like clicked. It's like, why am I paying other people's mortgages? Like, why don't we buy a home and use it and then sort of just cover the bill. So that's how it all started was we had this dream of just getting our vacations paid for. It was it.
Right.
Right.
And so I bought this little junky 3-bedroom condo that was actually bank owned and we put our sweat equity into it like most people. And my wife, which was my fiance at the time, she liked to kill me because it was like right before our wedding. We're, remodeling this thing. She's an interior designer. So, obviously everything had to be perfect
Oh
like
yeah.
days before our wedding. We had a booking coming up. It was like all those things. And it was like, man, was this worth it? Like, this is pretty stressful, like managing this business from afar. And then the money started rolling in. Right.
Mhm.
And we just literally, like, it just like a light bulb went off. It was like, wow, this is like really, really cool how this industry is changing. Airbnb was getting big. VRBO was huge already. And all these things were just like coming together and, I'd always had this, from my experience at Dotloop, had this really entrepreneurial passion with inside me of being at a startup. And we started thinking about how could I make this, my professional career. And after Zillow acquired us, it was amazing. I mean, Zillow is an amazing company, great leadership and culture, but I lost a little bit of that entrepreneur edge and that fire and started thinking about what could I do next. And I just kept
It
going back
happens,
to the
Well,
an
that,
same.
no, and let's
acquisition.
let's talk about that because that happens during acquisitions, right? Like in
Yeah.
scale and like when things change, especially with people who've been there, in a legacy capacity, right? Like now, talk like how was that journey for you, like personally? Like once
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
acquisition,
mean,
I see it was exciting, but talk about that time for you.
it was totally exciting because, we had all these aspirations of exiting, right? We
Mhm.
building this company for so long, and it's like finally this event, that happened, and it was financially rewarding and just professionally rewarding to be part of this big company. But like all big companies, things start to slow down a little bit, and you get wrapped into the larger strategy and plan. And so this like really fast paced growth and really entrepreneur type, like, hey, just go figure it out, do things right. There's a little bit more red tape, and
Right,
there's a few more hoops to jump through.
right.
And not that those things are bad; they're all needed in a large company. But I've been so used to just the autonomy and running things like how I thought they should be done, and so I just lost a little bit of that luster and that fire. And you either, some people are built for it and some people are not. And I think I'm just built for startups. I like
Oh, yeah.
grinding. I like
But I
hustling.
feel like I feel like that's a common story, right? Like it's like someone pours the water on the fire, right? Like
Yeah.
when, I just don't I wanna see a model that's different, like when a company scales, even with the size of a company. Yeah, I get the red tape. Yeah, I get the,
Yeah.
kind of, addition of a broader, bigger strategy of what you're a part of now also. But like, it'd be great to see that creative energy not really tampered with as much, and to see a
Totally.
model that really is like, hey, this is why you acquired us. We were on fire. Like, let's
Yeah.
keep this going now with more resources and in a bigger pool. Like,
In the
Why
first year or so was like that, right? We got a huge injection of, resources. It was like, just keep doing what you're doing, right?
mhm,
And grow at a fast clip. And then that starts to fade out a little bit as you get wrapped into the
Well,
bigger.
I mean, look at all the companies in our space.
no,
Look at all the acquisitions that are happening. These bigger, or this injection of money, is now
Yeah,
funded. And there's this backing, right? Hey, we just got $100,000, or we just got $2 million to go ahead and do what we need to do, or $100 million, or whatever
right.
it is, depending on the size of your startup. And oh, these big thing, and you see like in companies, they're throwing these huge parties, and they're like, we've made it, woo, woo. And then it just
yeah,
like, and you can even see it in the product launches and the things that they're doing. It's just not as much luster. And I kind of agree with I agree with both of you on this. It's necessary,
yeah,
right? At scale, when you have there's red tape, and there's slowing down, and there's well, if you're backed, you got to please the backer, right?
right.
So now you got money people you have to keep happy,
hmm
and I get it, and it makes sense. But is there a way to inject? And this is actually kind of a neat idea. What is that
Yeah,
model to keep structure, but also foster that creativity in what makes guys like us like thrive, like we thrive in a startup environment.
yeah,
Right.
totally.
That's where there's certain, and it's not for everybody. Some people would just prefer to go clock in, clock out.
Right.
They know what they're doing in the beginning of the day. They know what they're doing at 3 o'clock. They know what they're doing when they go home, or if they're working from, doesn't matter. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think you need both. I mean, you
No,
have
exactly. I
you have
think
to.
there's a way to balance it, but we're not going to solve it on this podcast.
I think,
You
I
never, hey
mean,
man, look, you never know. Look at what we're talking about.
I think Zillow honestly did a pretty good job, and I think they do this a lot of brands. If you look at Zillow Group as a whole, right, they've got all these brands under them. Like Trulia still exists, and dotloop still exists. So I think they're trying, but hey, they're a publicly traded company, multi-billion-dollar market cap. It's like, maybe it's not going public, right? Maybe it's being private or something like that. But
Well,
anyways, yeah, great company, great journey, and but I lost that luster, right? I wanted
right.
to be an entrepreneur and sit in that seat and come up with an idea and make it dent again. So yeah, so I was so basically thinking about my experience, my rental I had, and what I saw in the market going on. I also had a good friend of mine as well who started a rental company in the Lake Tahoe area and saw them grow tremendously, really quickly. And I did a little bit of operational consulting with him and helped him out with some stuff. And so just put those thoughts and ideas together and really started to formulate what I thought, the industry needed. And really that was how the idea of D. Alexander was born. We started to see the culmination of what the STR vacation rental industry was doing. We saw this, hotels, professionalization, losing its luster. We saw real estate. I had been in and around like what people did with long-term rentals, like Invitation Homes and those guys. And it's like, how can we think of something, that puts all these puzzle pieces together? And so we formulated the idea for D. Alexander, and D. Alexander, yeah, everybody sort of claims that they're the first of its kind, but to my knowledge, there wasn't many like D. Alexander out there, which was really a real estate fund and operating company and brand, like all wrapped together. So we sort of like took the hotel model where you have a brand, you have the operating company, and you have the real estate fund owning the assets. And, we thought, let's professionalize the space a little bit higher level. Let's design every home, with some consistency and some quality
Right.
and
So
put
it's
that
all it's all
level
purpose
of service.
built. It's
Yeah,
all super
absolutely.
focused.
So, yeah, so we raised some money and we went out and bought, I think 18 homes across the country, and we launched the Alexander as a brand. And it was that idea, right? That thesis of how can we bring like hotel quality, consistency, and service into STR world. And yeah, so it was really just out of the passion and experiences and everything I saw going on around me and making a run at it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
So D. Alexander, though, you're co-founder, you're the president, COO. This is a short stint for you, though.
Yeah.
What happened, or was this calculated, or was it,
Yeah, I mean, in startup world, nothing is ever super calculated, like
right?
big change like this. But yeah, we operated the company for a couple of years. I think, what I can easily break it down into is the founders had differing ideas as we faced a really big challenge called COVID on where to take the company next and what to do next and what all of our personal aspirations were. And one of our founders was Austin Allison, my buddy who founded dotloop. He went on to found Picasso. He had this desired passion to, make second home ownership available to everybody. And so he parted
Hey, I
ways.
met him at I think he was in Nashville last year at
Yeah.
I met him there at Amy High Notes DARM conference.
Yeah. So Austin co-founded Picasso with Spencer Raskoff. I think Spencer was there maybe.
Maybe with Spencer I
Um,
met.
yeah, Spencer was there. But so, that was his thing. He loved the short-term rental market, but that was his passion, right? So he wanted to go do that. So my other founder and I, Alex, we had differing ideas on sort of where we wanted to take the company next. And really it came down to we needed to raise more money because we were in COVID and both paying ourselves salaries, differing ideas. And so I departed. I wanted to go down this, management space and really, continue to build the operations and the management company. And my co-founder wanted to do more of like this travel, like, packages and, really focus on brand. I almost think, he wanted to be the next Wander, right? Is
Okay.
super high investment in the property and lyric Wander type thing. And I just, that wasn't where my passion was. So I left. It was hard to leave. I founded the company. The
Right.
D in the Alexander is literally Dustin. My buddy,
I was gonna
my
ask you
co-founder
that.
was Alexander. So, it has my name on it, but it's all good. It was the right timing for me as well. I'm married. I got 2 kids, just moved to Charleston. It was like during COVID and
Yeah.
it was like working 100 hours a week. And so I decided to depart. And at that time, Avantstay was growing and needed some more experience on the operations side. So, they knocked on my door and it was a great fit. They were just coming out of COVID looking for somebody to help them to grow on the operations sort of post-sale side. So
So the Avantstay, you're the VP of homes there. You're helping them grow. You're with them for a couple of years, and did you just get another? This isn't a good fit. Did you depart, or was it like I know Avantstay had some changes, two structural changes,
yeah.
relatively recently. So at that time, it looks, August. If I'm looking at your timeline, August you departed Avantstay, but you're also here out of nowhere as a Portoro.
Yeah. So my time at Avantstay was great. So I have a ton of respect for them. And, what I would characterize it as, we started down, one path with some big ambitious ideas. And, it became very hard to focus and it was somewhat, distracting. We started off as a lease arbitrage and then we jumped into making a ton of acquisitions really quickly and launching a propco real estate fund and
Right.
managing hotels and, multifamily. So it was just like, oh my gosh, there's a lot to focus on and a lot to do. And my expertise and focus was really on sort of that post-sales operation and onboarding and design and all those kind of things. And it was really, more mutual, I think, than anything. After 2 years there of grinding and working hard, and I think we both had a good experience, it was like, we both need something different, right? I think they needed a lot of operational discipline around, the way that they were growing and you've seen the restructuring. It's, pretty apparent out there on the social platforms and stuff. And
Right.
I was really looking for focus,
Yeah.
similar to the Alexander. I wanted to focus on what I was really passionate about. And really, if you sort of look at my experience there, what I'm doing with Portoro, it's a focus on premium homes. It's a focus on property management, heavily local operations. And so it was sort of that same idea is like, how do I put these thoughts and experiences together in a platform that I think is right? And so started to formulate that idea. And of course, as you're thinking about leaving, you're sort of formulating your next idea, right? And the Portoro, opportunity was present there. So yeah, planned my exit, and we had a great transition period. They brought in some people to backfill. So it was planned for a bit, a couple of months, and so I was able to jump out with Portoro pretty quickly.
I think Portoro is pretty brilliant, and there's a decent amount of purpose built, focused property management, tech enabled, but it's those that can do it well. And so I guess I want to talk about your plans, and I mean you're putting a pretty solid team together
Yeah.
of industry veterans are coming in that know the space well to do and build something special. And you're also not coming in, you're not starting off with an acquisition if I'm not, unless you are, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Uh,
so actually our jump into the market in Austin, Texas was with an acquisition of a small
okay.
PM company. And so I'll just give you like the high level overview of what Portoro is and what we're trying to accomplish. So, you know, and again, it's from looking at the space. What I see out there in the space, I'm sure you guys see a lot of it too, is that a lot of these big players are taking this homogenous approach to property management. They're treating all properties the same, all owners the same, all guests the same. And of course, over time, like the bar has risen in most categories of that. But where I feel like it's continued to lack is really the premium home category. You've got homeowners who own multi-million dollar second properties, and they're getting service like the condo that makes $20,000 down the road. And the guests are the same, right? The guests who are paying $120 a night are getting, service the same as the guest that's paying $2,500 a night at a really premium home.
Mhm.
And so you see this fragmentation and the disconnect going on there. And so myself and my team, we wanted to really focus on how do we up level the experience of both the homeowner and the guest and the local teams of these premium homes, and really give the service that they deserve. So that's what we're focused on. We're focused on leisure destinations or vacation markets. We're focused on premium homes, and usually large single family. And also, one of the things that I've seen, an experience at Avantstay and seeing what happened with Vacasa and all these, acquisitions, right? We jumped out with an acquisition. And I think what's interesting there is that there are different strategies that you can take with acquisitions. For us, it's a way to enter a market, right? Organic sales is hard. Everybody in sales knows that like that first one or two homes or sales or whatever it is super tough. And so we know that there are great operators who have some of the same ambitions and sort of strategies, but they don't have the resources to take it to the next level, or they just want to stay in their niche. And so what we want to do is come in and partner, acquire those, and take their dreams and make them a reality, right? Inject the capital and the team and the experience and grow from there. So we acquired our way into Austin, Texas with Stay Local Austin. Fantastic owners of the company. They're
Yep.
amazing. They had a great idea, great homes. Look at look at our website, look at the portfolio. They're the best homes in Austin and Travis Heights. And so yeah, we're going to grow on top of that. We're injecting all the great home amenities into it, luxury linens and bath amenities. And we're putting all the great safety stuff in there, like the noise aware and the, ring cameras and all that kind of stuff. So we're taking it to the next level. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to acquire our way into markets for the most part, and jump off and from that and grow organically.
I like this idea. It's there are others that are trying to do comparable, that are coming in, they're acquiring, and it makes sense, and especially get a team, you find a company that is profitable, that just needs a little more injection or resource. There's actually some cool investment companies that are doing the same, that are but they're not necessarily branding as Portoro. They're
Yeah.
branding as keeping the brands, but they're just injecting money into them and helping
Yeah.
them with their operational side of things. So what's interesting about what you're all doing is you're finding these companies, but you're also focusing on brand.
Totally.
So there's
Yeah.
it's not just here's some capital, here, let's raise the bar, keep
Yeah.
your mom and pop or keep whatever brand you have, which there's arguments to both, right?
Yeah.
There's arguments to Stay Local Austin or whatever, that brand had established itself. And as a key player in that market, I can only think of one other esque luxury brand in that market that has comparable home, but you're coming in and you're rebranding as well. So do you
Yeah.
think that that's going to be, and I believe that it will, but overall, like the long game, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's benefits to both, but the way that we think about it is, we acquired Stay Local Austin partly because of their team and their portfolio and all that kind of stuff, but also because of their brand, right? They had created a really great local brand. They invest in, local partnerships. It's all about Austin and they do it right. And so we're taking a long-term approach to our branding as well. If you look at our website or their website, staylocalatx.com, it's co-branded right now. So we're Stay Local by Portoro. And that's on purpose because we don't want to lose the luster and the benefit of what they've built. But over time, right, we're going to introduce people to Portoro as a brand so they get familiar with what are we bringing to the table, right? We want to build that trust. We want to build that continuity. And so people will start assimilating Portoro with the same quality in Austin. We know it doesn't happen overnight, right? They built this brand over time. And so with companies like that, we'll co-brand and we'll make sure that people understand who we are, what we're bringing to the table on top of that. And eventually, it'll be Portoro for sure. But that's our approach to it is that we think, yes, there's like local brands that have value, but overall, I think travelers want to understand with a local brand, really what they're looking for is this company somebody that I can count on that knows local, that knows Austin, that knows what I can do there, that the property managers are on the ground, the revenue managers are on the ground, right? There's that local aspect. I don't think they care much about the name, to be honest with you. Like they just want to know you're invested in the market and you know it well. And we're going to keep those things and invest in those things while leveling up the brand name Portoro. That's our approach to brand.
I like it. I
So that
think
makes sense.
so. Portoro, why Portoro?
Why the name Portoro?
What's the significance? I mean, we understand D Alexander, like we figured that. You told us
Yeah.
that.
I wish there was some super like sexy and cool story to the name Portoro, but there isn't. No, I'm kidding. There's some meaning behind it, right? Portoro, it's in its name and its meaning. It's a high end marble, but it's meaned more. Like we've created more meaning out of the name. You'll notice on our logo, it's a portal, right? It's a doorway, and so that portal aspect, we're combining like physical aspects of the home, but also this portal into an experience. We know that really why people travel and rent homes in our space is because they want to experience something, right? They want to get away with their family, their friends. They want to experience a new town, all that it has to offer. So we're giving that portal, that doorway into an experience, and the homes are just the platform into that. So we've made Portoro more than just a physical aspect of the home. It's really a portal or a doorway into an experience.
Yeah, it's a culture, right? Like exactly an experience. You say your doorway is always open,
That's
right?
right.
I love that. I love that tagline because now that puts the metal behind you guys having to make that experience actually be that, right?
Totally. Right. I mean, anybody can put a home up there, right? And list it and host a home. And that's great. And people do a great job doing that. But for us, it's we're creating experience and we're gonna commit to that and make a promise to our guests that the home is just the doorway. Whatever after you step into that, you're gonna get the real Portoro experience and we're gonna show you concierge services and local experiences and all that kind of great stuff.
How do you? So again, you're new. You come in. You're this. You acquired Stay Local Austin. My assumption is you already have. You know where you're going next, or you're well on your way.
Yeah.
What is a tech stack? What kind of tech stack do you need to have? And you don't have to give away your secret sauce. It's probably not secret for the people that are listening.
Right.
But what is tech stack in your mind to be successful in what you're trying to do?
Totally. That's a great question. I love this topic because I came from a SaaS background, right? Dotloop, Zillow, we built everything from ground up. And I think the way that I thought about coming into this industry and founding Protoro and what we want to build is, yeah, I'm taking some notes from my SaaS background, but also our industry is flush with amazing technologies. And I think they're only getting better. So the way that we think about it is, let's use as much off the shelf, really great connected platforms that we can to get off the ground and only build what's going to really give us the ability to generate ROI, number one, and B, like the experience that we want. So, in my eyes, there's a lot of great PMSs out there, right? It's pretty apparent what we need as a PMS. And I think, for me to build another PMS system, it's just a lot of money, right?
Right.
And why build one from ground up? So we're using a PMS system today, but we're building on top of that. We're using a breezeway today, but we're building on top of that. And for us, it's all about like, where can we get the ROI of building something ourselves? A great guest booking experience. I think that's number one. Like, people want to book easily and have information at their fingertips. Number two is what I think is the biggest opportunity on the homeowner side is a really awesome homeowner portal. We've all seen them out there, and you compare that to something like you get with a home banking app or even Zillow. Like, I have my home on Zillow. I know more about my home on Zillow than most of these homeowner portals. So I think that is number one. Is as we're looking at our particular category, these people are in multi-million-dollar houses and they get a paper PDF statement emailed to them every month. It's just not, that doesn't create a lot of transparency and trust. So we're
Right.
building a really awesome, transparent, powerful homeowner portal that I just don't think that's on the market today. And then on the guest side, those concierge experiences, right? We want to be able to have somebody laying in their bed, just like at a hotel, and say, boom, I want a massage, and we deliver a masseuse to the door.
Right.
Or, I want my fridge stocked right before I get there, and we do that. And so we want to build a guest app that enables concierge experience, like a hospitality or a hotel company. And then finally, operations is tough, right? We know in this industry, managing single assets that are miles and miles and miles away are hard for cleaners and maintenance people and in our property managers. So we're building technology to make that easier, scheduling and automation and all those things, so that their lives can be as easy as possible. So that's the way we think about technology.
Yeah, they're singular complex organisms, right? Like they
They
may be
are.
in that space, but there's so many things that go into and doing it right, right? Like
Right.
it's, profitability in this business comes down to being able to scale in operations correctly. It means using
Absolutely.
the right technology. Interesting. Like, I love your strategy of, use what's off the shelf and build on top.
Yep.
One of the problems we always hear about and always have to talk about is like there's no common language in which to build off of. So like, how
Yep.
are your relationships and how are you working with the technology in the space to allow that to happen? Right?
Yeah.
Because
First, it's having
a
a
lot
really
of people
great.
are like this and they're like,
Right.
they're not gonna let you do certain things, right? So do you find like how do you get those relationships that don't leave you kind of pinned in a corner with nowhere to kind of build out of, if that
It
makes
all
sense?
starts with strategy from the get-go and having a really good engineering team and engineering leader, right? It's like, what do we want? We know in the end game, we want to build off of a platform of great, like we just said, great industry, tools out there, but they need to be flexible. There are some systems in this industry that are super flexible, have really strong APIs that just flood with information and we can easily work with them. There are others that, man, you just cannot work with them unless it's a direct integration. And even though, like, most people don't want to do an integration because they want to just keep you in their little atmosphere.
Right.
And so from the get-go, we knew that was going to be our strategy. So the tools that we're picking have to have strong API access and, are investing in that type of documentation. And then it's, comes down to like the strategy of what we want to build. Like, what can we start to peel off and insert in our own technology into is key. Because we all know, like, you go down some of these paths, like with the wrong PMS or whatever, it's hard to get off of it. And
Yeah.
listen, like, I'm sure we'll make a mistake and, have to pivot of a platform. That's no doubt. But we're trying to at least pick the right pieces of tools that we know can be flexible enough for us to work with. And for anybody out there, it's like, there are different, API companies that you can work with that'll help connect tools. Like, you don't have to have your own engineering team, but for us, that was the key. It's like, tell all of our engineers and people working on our product, like, we need your help to help us pick the systems to use today so that in the future it's flexible enough because they're going to be building in connection with it.
Makes sense. I deal
That's
with this kind of stuff all the day selling our software, right? So it's
Yeah.
are we flexible? Can we work with you? Are we building helping you build a foundation that you can, it's a solid foundation for years and years and years. And there's a handful that are, and there's more that are not. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Matteo mentioned profitability. And that's always an interesting concept, especially with acquisitions and coming in early and as in a startup. But I think you have a really cool model that it's just a little bit different enough that when do you forecast profitability for for yourself, and and a caveat to that is what acquisitions or what markets are you looking at to help put you on that path to profitability.
I'll answer that in reverse. So if you
Okay.
think about, because it'll help, think picking the markets and how we acquire and grow really is our path to profitability. And what we're looking to accomplish in the first, year, call it 18 months, is to be in 3 to 4 markets that are differentiated. As a CEO, I have to think about, what are the cash flows of the business, right? What's seasonality looking like? And so I'd love to be in 3 to 4 different markets that are sort of seasonal differentiations. We've acquired Austin. It's an amazing urban market. It's got some seasonality, but for the most part, there's a lot going on throughout the year and it's pretty
Yeah.
steady. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. We're going to open this market. Like, it's my backyard. I love it. It's a killer market. So we're going to have a Southeast beach market. I'd love to have a winter destination, a ski destination, whether that's Winter Park, Colorado, Killington, Vermont, Stowe. It really, the location matters, but what matters more
Killington's
to
my
me.
hometown. I went to high
Oh,
school
is
there.
it? Sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe you can introduce me to somebody there.
I got some
But
people up there we can introduce.
it's more about, like, can we get these differentiated markets that instead of our business looking like, a ski slope, it looks flat, on the books. And so those are the market types we're looking at. We'd love to be in a desert market. At Avantstay, I had great experience into Coachella and Palm Springs, and those can be really amazing markets. Or Scottsdale, we just saw like the boom of Waste Management open and the Super Bowl being there. And, so we're looking for those types of markets, and we're really looking for the acquisitions to lead us where to go next, so long as it fits in those categories.
Right. Well, it's
What
interesting too because real quick, Taylor, the interesting thing about that too is diversifying your locations helps you in your seasonality. Also, helps for when a disaster happens.
Totally.
You look at certain markets that they're, hey, we're in New Orleans and we're on the coast of Florida,
Yeah,
and we got 500 homes and they're all amazing. Well, great, but when something comes and hits you, that's half your revenue is
totally.
gone. And now all your revenue is now going back into rebuilding. It takes you out. And so putting all those eggs into one type of basket, or one basket at all, in a company like yourself and how you're trying to scale and grow, just doesn't make sense. So I like your approach.
And what most people don't think about is resources, right? Like, we obviously have local and market teams and invest heavily there, but we have sort of what we call HQ operations, like myself and our revenue managers and all this type of people. And with that seasonality, you've got those dips and downtimes. Well, we can hire up at scale and keep those people pumping and busy across all markets, right? Because we don't have those seasonal dips. So our goal is obviously never to get in a place where we're cutting back, or, like, right, if we have a disaster, we have something shrinkage in a market, those people have a lot of other markets that are booming and busting at different times to focus on. So we think it gives us just a lot of differentiation and balance sheet power.
I think that's smart.
So
One of
you
the
you
things I
asked
didn't
about.
hear,
Oh, sorry.
like I
Go ahead,
was,
Mateo.
one of the things I didn't hear is though, like, and thinking of Austin, like specifically, is like regulatory risk.
Yeah.
Like, how are you guys gauging that? Because like, it's not fun in Austin, right? Like, it's there are regulatory issues in Austin. Or I talk to companies all the time. They're like, "Oh, Austin's a great market, but what's the regulatory
Yeah.
issues like going around there?"
Totally. And I live in a very highly regulated market as well, downtown Charleston. I mean, there's like 2 streets that go east and west, and like, that's it, right? But what I'll say about Austin, and in a company that we acquired, Stay Local Austin, they have 100% licensed, like, fully, compliant properties. And for us, that's a moat, right? If you
Yeah.
get in there and you get, a bunch of, actual licensed permitted properties that are on the right side of regulation, that creates a pretty good moat. So that was very strategic for us.
Good.
Also, I think that in that market, if we're given the premium service that we're offering, we're maintaining people's permits, we're submitting their taxes, like, we're full service, right? We should be able to attract even more of those, permitted properties. And so regulation doesn't really scare me in a sense, entering a market like that, because we're doing things the right way. And I think we're attracting the right type of people. Plus, if you look at Austin, right, the downtown market that's super highly regulated is only really one piece of the greater Austin
Right.
opportunity. You've got Lake Travis, you've got Lake Austin, Dripping Springs. Like there's so much you can expand into
Right.
that, I think there's more opportunity than there is, sort of like headwinds on the regulatory side.
Well, and then focusing on the luxury market as well,
That's
like
what I was
most
gonna
of
say.
that stuff isn't in downtown. I mean, there's some
Right.
luxury in the downtown, but you're getting it these sprawling, mansions and lakefront properties with
Totally.
pools, and I mean, it's gorgeous area.
Yeah, and totally agree with you, right? We're focused on big, 3+ bedroom homes.
Right.
You get a lot of downtown stuff is 1 and 2 bedrooms, right? And I think we've got at least a large portion of the large ones, but we've got some opportunities like on Lake Travis, right? These 7-bedroom mansions with infinity pools and a dock, and like that's an opportunity. It's a
Right.
massive opportunity. It's beautiful out there.
Playing at a different level with different
Right.
man. Yeah.
Trying to, yeah.
So you're out, you launched with Austin, things are going good.
Yeah.
We know at least, where you'd like to be. Do you have a this is next location?
Um, yeah,
If
I
you
would
can't say it,
say
that's fine, but
Yeah, no, I mentioned Charleston's my backyard. Charleston's next for us. We've done the organic sales thing here. I've met with definitely a lot of homeowners, some property management companies. So I will put it on record now that I expect Charleston to be our next market. It's just fantastic, right? It's one of the number one markets in the country. I think Condé Nast, I don't know, maybe it's a decade, 10 years in a row, right?
right.
And it's like, it's my backyard, so we'll operate here next.
That's awesome. I love Charleston. Oysters in Charleston. Like there's
That's right.
some of my favorite places are in Charleston. And it's a great market. I mean, you have some decent competition. You have which is good. This is good for you, but you
Yeah.
definitely have some differentiators.
There's a
Uh,
ton of competition. It's a pretty professionalized market, I
yeah,
would say. I think there's more professional operators here than there are, those like single hosts who live and market their house here, because most people who are buying here can afford to buy from afar, right? What I love about Charleston is you've got these different markets that offer something completely different that are right down the road. Like
right.
downtown is historical. It's got the love and the charm and all those kind of things. Then you go to Isle of Palms, and it's like a polished beach community. And then Folly Beach is sort of like this laid back, like
Like
hippie
super chill,
agenda.
like hippie, kind of like
And
yeah,
you've got Kiowa and Seabrook, like are resort communities, right? And
yeah.
then you go even further, you've got Edisto, which is like nature. So I
Well,
like
the
to put
interesting thing that too is like Charleston's right in the middle of like all these amazing. You just go a little bit south, you're in Hilton Head.
totally.
You go a little bit north, you're up in you got your Myrtles and your all that your Poly up into Myrtle. It's just a real. I love that area. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's strategic.
to me, it's a more family friendly as opposed like you got, this is South Carolina, but everyone thinks, Outer Banks, North Carolina. But like for me, I always think if I'm thinking like coastal Carolinas,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love North Carolina. Like there's certain areas in North Carolina that, southern, but south of the Outer Banks for me.
Yeah,
Like that's
totally.
kind of where like my sweet spot's going down into South Carolina.
Yeah, we came to the Carolinas like growing up as a family, and so I just always had an affinity. And what really brought me here is my wife went to school here, like we vacationed here, all this kind of stuff. And it's like the best family vacation you can get for Midwesterners and East Coasters driving
Right.
the coast. It's just amazing. You can't beat it.
We used to go, our family trips were to North Topsail.
Yeah,
So my Carrington's neck of the woods, that's where we used to go. But Charleston's my favorite now.
awesome.
Well, congrats, man. We're super excited for you. Like, I'm really excited to see Portoro, grow and scale. Actually, real quickly, let's talk about the team that
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you
would love
before we
to.
get out of here. You built. We mentioned that you built like a team of like a superstars, right?
yeah.
Why the team that you have? They all have different strengths.
hmm
But where do you think that this team is going to take you that just like building another team wouldn't necessarily?
Man, team is everything. If there's anything I learned back in my startup days at dotloop and through Zillow is team is everything. You hire a good team, they build great products and services, and the rest is history. And, too often I think we see in our industry is people coming from the outside in thinking they know it all, right? And they can just solve all the vacation rental problems. And if you haven't sat in the seat, like it's really hard to wrap your head around all the complexities. And I've sat in every single seat. I've, remodeled the houses. I've cleaned the house. I've done it all. And so I have this good perspective. And I think, what I'm trying to do is bring in those people that have expertise in their field. Kenny Ball, my SVP of ops, he's the best distributed operator like in the industry. He's, turnkey at their growth period, Lyric, Avantstay, so he brings his perspective of like all these experiences at these different companies, and he's learned a lot of things. Yael, our head of sales, was at Vacasa, Avantstay, build an organic team. She's seen, good ways and bad ways and how to do it. So we're bringing all of these different people that have been at these companies and seen it done different ways and pulling those, experiences so that we can do it right and do it our way. And I think hands down, like industry experience is super, super key in our world. And that's really what I'm leaning on, because I'm humble. I don't know every aspect of the business to the nth degree, right? And so I lean on my team to be little mini entrepreneurs in their space and in their category to go build what they need to do to execute on the plan. So I think we're building a rock star plan. And I think, we're building a great culture. We're attracting great talent. We have a general application on our website. We get like 5 or 10 applications a day just from amazing people in the industry that have killer experience. So yeah, that's what it's about, man.
It says a lot right there. That's what you want, right? You want, and it's hard turning them all down because you only have room for one. And you're like,
yeah. We just say, wait, not yet, right?
Yeah, not yet.
Like, let us get there. Let us get there.
Yeah, be patient. Are you in that much of a hurry to exit your current situation?
Some people are.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I mean, and we know there's been changes and there's been layoffs and things that happen in the industry, and there's good people that are really smart, and I wish we could hire them all, but I'll just say not yet. We'll get there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to be in Kansas City the week after this live. This goes live for us. I will see you there in Kansas City at Burma Spring Forum. Let's get together. Let's meet up. And for those that want to learn more about Portoro, go to their website. It's linked on our page. If you like our podcast, go to our Apple podcast page, leave a review, like 5-star review, type in 2 sentences, like do us a favor, help us out there. We appreciate you. If you're watching us on YouTube and you see our ugly 2 mugs, as in Mateo and mine, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell your friends about the podcast. Until next week, thanks. Appreciate you, Dustin.
Thanks, guys. Love your podcast.
This podcast is a Hospitality.fm production.